the girl who noticed me. Growing up, I learned early how to disappear in plain sight. My father remarried when I was 2, and my stepmother never hid her dislike for me. She acted like I was some ghost from his past haunting the family she wanted to build without me. I ate meals alone. I slept in what used to be a storage closet. I was never included, not in conversations, family outings, or even hugs. I was just there. School wasn't much better. I wasn't bullied exactly, but I was ignored. The kind of ignored that makes you start to believe you really are invisible. Until Natalie. She came into my life when we were 6. Her dad and mine worked at the same company, and one evening they brought their families together for some kind of barbecue. I remember hiding behind the couch, holding a toy car, wishing the evening would end. Then she saw me. Really saw me. And without hesitation she walked over, sat on the floor beside me, and asked what my car's name was. No judgment. No awkward silence. Just warmth. From that moment, everything began to shift. Natalie was sunshine. She played sports, always had straight A's, and wanted to be an engineer just like her dad. And somehow she made time for me, this quiet, scrawny boy from a silent house. Because of her, I joined the soccer team. My grades got better. I laughed more. Her family welcomed me like I belonged. Her mom would serve me extra at dinner like I was one of her own. For 9 beautiful years, Natalie was my anchor. Until the day she wasn't. Her dad got a job offer in Chicago, and within a month, she was gone. We promised to stay in touch, and for a while we did. But middle school turned into high school, and our texts became less frequent. Eventually the silence returned. I thought I had lost her forever. But I never expected what would happen when someone else stepped into that silence, and refused to let me forget how much I still needed to feel seen. Chapter 2, The Space Rachel Filled. A few months after Natalie left, I met Rachel. We were paired for a history project, and unlike most people, she actually talked to me like I was worth listening to. She had this fire about her, bright clothes, loud laugh, confidence that made people notice. And for some reason she kept me close. Rachel became my escape. When things got too heavy at home, I'd crash at her place. Her parents liked having me around. They even gave me a spare key after a while. We weren't officially dating, but sometimes we acted like it. There were moments, parties, late nights, where lines blurred. We kissed more than once. But whenever she found a new guy, I faded into the background. I never protested. I didn't want to ruin what we had. Rachel was the only consistent thing in my life after Natalie left. So I settled. For years, I convinced myself that what we had was enough. Through college, our contact lessened, but we always checked in. She knew when I had exams, and I knew when she was dealing with another breakup. It was always this strange rhythm, never quite together, never fully apart. But what Rachel didn't know, what I never told anyone, was that during those years, I took the train to Chicago several times. Not to see the city. Not for friends. Just to sit quietly in the back of the stands and watch Natalie play soccer for her university. She never knew I was there. I'd sit alone, bundled in a hoodie, and watch her like she was still part of my world. And then I'd leave before the final whistle blew. It was stupid. I know that now. But those moments, seeing her still chasing her dreams, gave me something to hold on to. And then life spun full circle in the most unexpected way. Because one day at work, while sipping my morning coffee, my manager brought over a new hire. And when I turned around, I nearly dropped the mug. It was her. Rewind the clock. There are moments that split your life into before and after. Seeing Natalie again was one of those moments. She smiled the way she used to when we were kids. Soft, warm, like a secret only we shared. We both stood there staring at each other as our manager awkwardly finished his introduction. And just like that, time rewound. All the years between us melted. Over the next few weeks, we fell back into each other's rhythms. Lunch breaks became laughter-filled. We joined a co-ed soccer league together. Weekends turned into spontaneous adventures around the city. I told her things I hadn't told anyone in years. And she listened, not out of politeness but because she genuinely cared. She understood the parts of me most people never even noticed. I found out her best friend, Sarah, worked in another department in our office. They often spoke Korean to each other around the halls. What they didn't know was that I'd taken a few Korean language courses in college. I wasn't fluent, but I could understand enough. One afternoon, I overheard Sarah teasing Natalie about how she looked at me when I wasn't paying attention. Natalie told her to hush, but didn't deny it. That night, over dinner, I asked her if we were just dancing around something that already existed. She blinked at me once and then smiled. "Yes," she whispered. "Let's stop dancing." And just like that, we were official. The next day, I called Rachel to tell her. She sounded quiet at first, then congratulated me. I believed her. Until 2 days later, she knocked on my apartment door unannounced. And when I opened it, she looked at me like I had betrayed her. Chapter 4. Lines that shouldn't be crossed. Rachel didn't say much at first. She just stood there, arms folded, eyes flickering across my apartment like she was taking inventory of a life she thought was partially hers. Then she said she missed me, that she'd been thinking about us, about what we could have been. She pointed out how I always ran to her when things fell apart, how she was there when Natalie wasn't, how she knew me better than anyone else. I wanted to scream, to remind her that for years she kept me dangling, only stepping closer when it was convenient for her. But I didn't. I told her I was happy now, that I was with Natalie and I wasn't going to walk away from that. She didn't cry. She didn't argue. She just stared at me for a long moment, then turned and walked out. I thought that was the end. Until she called again 2 days later, asking to meet for coffee. She said it wasn't to win me back, just to talk. One last time. And something in me said, maybe we needed that. Maybe to close this chapter, I had to be brave enough to face how long I'd let someone love me only halfway. The goodbye that mattered most. We met at a small cafe near her place. I was early. She was already there. Rachel looked tired. Not physically, but emotionally. Worn out from chasing things that never stayed. Maybe that included me. When I sat down, she reached across the table, touched my hand, and gave me that same look she always did when lines were about to blur. This time I pulled away. I told her clearly, I came for closure, not confusion. That I valued what we had once, but I was no longer that boy who waited for scraps of affection. She sat back, nodded slowly, and then, she broke. Through quiet tears, she admitted everything. That she'd always known how I felt about her. That she kept me close for comfort, but never close enough for commitment. That I deserved better. She apologized. And then she told me she was moving to Toronto. That she'd taken a job and was leaving that very night. No forwarding number. No stay in touch. She asked one thing, that I never let anyone make me feel like a backup again. I promised, and then I watched her walk away knowing for the first time, I wasn't the one being left behind. Chapter 6. Starting from the field. 5 months later, Natalie and I stood at the edge of the same soccer field where it all began. The goalposts looked smaller now. The field, once enormous to our childhood selves, felt manageable, like everything else in life had started to feel. We kicked a ball around, laughing at how dramatic our games used to be. Then we sat on the bleachers, legs brushing, breath slow and steady. I told her everything. About the secret games in Chicago. The letters I never sent. The way she always felt like home, even from hundreds of miles away. She smiled, her eyes glistening. Then she leaned in and whispered, "You never stopped being part of my story either." That night, back in our apartment, she asked me if I wanted to get a dog. It sounded simple. But for someone who once felt like he didn't deserve anything permanent, making plans for a life ahead feels like a quiet kind of revolution. And for the first time in my life, I didn't feel like I was holding on to the past. I was building a future, with someone who had seen me from the very beginning, and chose to stay.